Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 753, and today's date is August 29th, 2015, and the title of this episode is The Current Economic Collapse News Brief. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. The interview with Charles Hugh Smith has been uploaded to the YouTube channel X22 Report Spotlight. You can go right over there and take a look at it. If you want to come to the x22report.com site, you will see the interview on the right-hand side. Let's get right into the economic collapse news. Now, we understand the IMF has given Ukraine leeway by writing off some of their debt. Now, with Greece, they're not doing this. They're saying, absolutely not. We are not going to cancel any debt whatsoever. They'll restructure the debt, and what that means is they'll spread the debt terms out for a longer period of time. They might change the interest rate, but they will not write off any debt whatsoever. And this is coming from Christine Lagarde. The debate on canceling the debt has never been open, and I don't think it is necessary to open it if things go well. So what they did with Ukraine is completely what they're doing with Greece. Now, of course, we know why. The central bankers have a hold on Ukraine. They control Ukraine. And Greece, they don't. In a certain way, they do. But they will never, ever, going through a government that they don't control completely, they will not write off any debt. They will keep that government, the people there, under control completely. She said, we are talking about extending maturities, reducing rates. We are not speaking about canceling debt. And we see at this point, the central bankers want control of these nations. They're not going to give it away. This is their plan. This is what they've been doing. They put countries further and further into debt. Think about it. What country at this point doesn't have this type of debt where the private Western central bank countries are controlling them? Most of the countries are in debt. Some of them very deeply in debt. We see Brazil right now. They're in a tough spot. Here's some of their problems. Collapsing commodity prices, the worst inflation growth outcome in over a decade, deficits on both the fiscal and current accounts, street protests calling for the president to be sacked, a plunging currency, allegation of rampant government corruption. Basically, their whole economy right now is collapsing. The country is completely in chaos. And we see here in the United States and all across Europe, they're continually using the propaganda that if this thing comes down, it's all China's fault. They're even saying it for the Eurozone right now, because Germany's economic engine has been driven to a great extent by China. And if they go, they will bring Germany down, and it'll be a cascading effect, and all the other European countries will fall. And we discussed this before. This was happening way before China. This is not all China's fault. And I'm not taking China's side. I'm not taking the central banker's side. We're looking at facts here, people. And for them to turn around and say, hey, we were doing fantastic, all this debt is meaningless, and all of a sudden China came along and their engine started to sputter, and this is why everything's happening. No, this was happening way before this. And we see at this point, the central banks are trapped. I mean, we have so much debt. They're talking about a rate hike. Things are falling apart. The market is teetering on a complete disaster, which is the last indicator that everyone will acknowledge that we're in this collapse. Of course, corporate media, the U.S. government, the Fed will finally come out and say, yeah, we just collapsed. But as long as they keep the market up, they're staying very quiet about it. And if you notice, they're trying to push the story of recovery. And we see right now that QE4 is inevitable. And I've said this many, many times before. When this thing hits and the economy starts to fall apart, and when they blame this on another group or country because of it, and of course we have to remember how this is going to come down, most likely with an event. This way it'll make it even easier for them to say, yeah, see, they were falling apart, they cyber attacked, it's definitely their fault. And Thank God the central bank said they will help us out of this tough spot. They will print as much as we need or create. I mean, I know some people out there saying there is no printing, and I understand that. It's creation and they push a button. And right now, the Fed right now is looking at raising the interest rates, but they know they can't do this. And if they do it, they know the economy is going to completely collapse. Now, if they do it, they'll do it a little bit to make it seem like, see, we're in a recovery. GDP's at 3.7%. We raised the interest rates. Everything is fine. And then they'll raise it a little bit more, and then we'll have something occur. So we can see already they're starting the propaganda, telling everyone it is China. And they can switch this off. They can say China started it, and look, Russia finished it with a cyber attack. And then we had the Islamic State that saw we were very vulnerable. They came in with a physical attack. They can use any story they want at this point because it's all propaganda and made up. Remember, they don't want to take the blame for what is happening. We see the premium for physical bullion is completely exploding right now. We're seeing that physical precious metals have taken a 20+% premium ever since this complete disaster has started. China, Greece, it's all way up. And we have to remember, Russia, China, and many other nations have been accumulating tons and tons of gold. The country with the gold will win. And we are getting reports that, the United States has none. Why do you think they're pushing war? Right now, Citigroup braces for world recession. Willem Buter, the bank's chief economist, said the country needs a major blast of fiscal spending financed by outright helicopter money from the bank to avert deepening crisis. Basically QE4. This is what they're talking about. They're already getting everyone prepared for this. We already heard from the former advisor to the UK Prime Minister saying, listen, you better be prepared. And everyone better be prepared because we understand that this system is coming down. Get your food, get your supplies, get your water, get more gold if you can. If you cannot, go to silver, get silver. Get some type of weapon, get matches, get toiletries, medical supplies. These are the things you need to get. If you haven't started any of this, you can go to many different places to buy it all at once. LifeReliance.com, they can do this for you. They have bug out bags, they have food, they have water, seeds, you name it, they have it. It's easy to do. There's many other places you can go to get this stuff. You can go and pick up water, canned goods, rice, all from your stores like BJ's, Costco, Sam's Club. They sell it in bulk. Dry milk, you name it, they have it. So there are places to do this, and everyone needs to start right now. I mean, we're listening to everyone at this point, and everyone's saying, yes, this system is coming down. And everyone better be prepared. We see the Department of Justice right now. They have given us a disturbing diagnosis of the Islamic State. They're saying they have a grip on the U.S. They're seeping into our communities. How? Through social media. And they're using social media to send their violent and hateful messages around the world, to radicalize people who just listen to them. Well, let me just say, to radicalize someone through social media, are they expecting us to really believe this? I mean, they're saying that we've caught all of these people that have joined the Islamic State. Well, no, they really haven't. Most of them are patsies, and most of them did absolutely nothing. It was all set up. And right now they're saying, and this is coming from the FBI, the Islamic State is in all 50 states right now, ready for a lone wolf attack using social media. And this is why they're trying to get rid of encryption. This is what they're trying to use at this point to convince us. Now remember, when they come out with this stuff, they use many different agendas. It's not just one. Part of their agenda is to get access to Google, Apple, those corporations that don't want to give them access, that have encryption. Their other agenda is to set up the propaganda that the Islamic State is coming for you, getting ready to push an event. The first agenda, everyone needs to protect themselves, and it's very easy to do. You can sign up to an email service and use encryption. This way they can't read your emails, they can't track you. You can use Start Page for your credit cards that have the RFID chip, or your license, which is going to have the RFID chip, and your phone. You can use something like blockitpocket.com, which is a sleeve interwoven with metals. You slip it in, the signal is completely cut off. So there are many different ways that you can protect yourself. Everyone needs to do this. We see that Germany and the US use spyware, and this is coming from a whistleblower, J. Kirk, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name right, Wiebe, and he is an NSA whistleblower, saying the software that Germany and the US are using basically spies on the innocent citizens of their country. And why are they doing this? To control the population. Basically, he said, perhaps our governments want to know what we are doing, independent of any criminal or terrorist activity. Perhaps they want to do what every tyrannical government in history has done. Control the population. That's what it's used for. To keep track and to control you. To keep you in fear. And this is why you need to protect yourself. The U.S. government is out there saying that we are not going to take or be a part of the peace process, the ceasefire process in Ukraine. But they will object for the southeastern people to hold local elections. Vice President Joe Biden is criticizing pro-Russian separatists in Ukraine for threatening to hold their own elections. Biden spoke to Ukraine President Poroshenko on the phone August 28th, and he's saying that this cannot be allowed. So what does Poroshenko do? First, he says he's amending the Constitution to allow special status for the southeastern area. And then he comes out and says the special status to Ukraine will be dropped from the country's constitution. Article 92 of the Constitution that allows for special status for separate cities will be scrapped. Why? Because he got his marching orders from the central bankers / U.S. government. We are not doing that. They're not holding their own elections. We want the entire country. We want the southeastern area. It has manufacturing. We want Crimea. It has the port and natural gas right off the shores. We want to control the pipelines there. So guess what? We are pushing for an offensive. We understand the United States government was brokering a deal between Sudan and South Sudan, and the UN warned South Sudan to sign the agreement. And we know every time the United States government central bankers are in there forcing the other side to sign a peace deal, if you have to force someone to sign peace, it's not really peace. And already the South Sudan government is saying, listen, they are completely violating the peace deal already. And they're going to continue to do this because what they want them to do, and this is the mode of operation they always use, is sign the peace deal, and then we're going to pretend that South Sudan broke the peace deal. In the meantime, we're not going to let everyone know that we're doing these small attacks to provoke. And then when something big comes out of South Sudan and they fire back, see, they can't even hold the peace deal. This is what's happening in Ukraine, the same exact thing. Now, Turkish jets have joined the U.S.-led coalition to fight Assad forces. Of course, in the corporate media, the U.S. government wants you to believe that they're fighting the Islamic State. The jets started last night to carry out air operations with the coalition forces against targets in Syria, which pose a threat to their security. So you know exactly what they're hitting. We know from the Pentagon, their reports were completely fake, phony, and false, that the Islamic State was actually being hit, that they were losing. Actually, they're expanding. And right now we're getting more information that no airstrikes against 60 camps producing 1,000 fighters monthly in Syria and Iraq are being hit whatsoever. How could that be? The whole purpose of getting the Islamic State is to destroy them, to get rid of the terrorists. Why wouldn't they hit these areas? Now, of course, they're going to say because, this is a problem area, we can't hit that area. They do this every single time. The reason they're not hitting those areas is because this is where the training is going on. This is where they're producing the soldiers. This is the proxy army, which they're creating to go into Damascus to remove Assad. Now, Putin knows this. He knows it's coming. He's called the United States bluff and said, listen, we will join the fight with you. We will go after the Islamic State, which is the proxy army for the United States government central bankers, the coalition forces in Israel. It backed the United States into a corner. It's their move now. And guess what? They're just going to attack. They're setting up the safe zones right now. They can call the zones whatever they want. It's going to be areas where they can bring in troops to make it easier for them to launch a major offensive into Damascus. That's it. We're also getting word that there are cyber attacks that are hitting Bank of America, JP Morgan, and Citigroup. And they're saying that Iranian activists are hitting these targets. Now, what are they doing at this point? They're building the story up to convince you that Syria, Iran, the Islamic State, Russia, China, these are the bad people, because eventually what's going to happen in Iran. Iran, with Russia and China, they're finally going to say we're not using the dollar anymore. We're going to sell our oil for whatever we want to sell it for. And this is when the United States will take a completely different stance, because this whole peace deal has nothing to do with nuclear weapons whatsoever. So they are getting prepared and ready with the propaganda. Now remember, our government right now is controlled by different entities. It's controlled by corporations, central bank, and other foreign entities that are conflicting with each other. But remember, the goal is always the same. The goal is to place the dollar on the natural resources, to take over that country if they need to do it, to keep the dollar propped up. Now, of course, there's many agendas intertwined in this, but that's the main agenda. This is what they have been doing, and the goal will always be the same. John Kerry said it. If we do not make this deal with Iran, guess what? The dollar collapses. And we know it is. This is why everyone needs to be prepared. Listen, everyone, be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thank you.